All right, so as we go through, I'm gonna, just so everyone's tracking, I'm gonna try and show you the pages that I've actually got. If you want, you can take a little, you can pause the video, see what's written on the screen. So I'm trying to do that so that way you don't have to go try and find this booklet yourself. So the next one for the development plan talks all about, hey, communication. If you're deaf, hearing impaired, how you communicate with others, having some way to do that. And then it says consideration for residents living in high-rise buildings or basements. So I'll go ahead and pause that there if you want. But I will tell you, one of the things that they ran into, especially after Hurricane Sandy, they had water in the tunnels for months, and that really slowed things down. So how do you think that did for all the folks who store things underground? Meeting places, so coming up like, hey, if there's an emergency, where do we evac to? How do we get out of there? Which way are we going? Here's where I'm gonna go for my first area. If I'm not here, or I don't see you within the first 24, 48 hours, I'm gonna go be here at this location where it's better off for us to go, right? So know where you're gonna stay and actually checking that out. I'll try and move my big fat fingers out of the way. How to evacuate, basically going through all of the different routes of how do you get out of places. A lot of people there don't have cars. If you've ever driven in New York City, I did when we were there, it's freaking terrible. Traffic's bad on a good day, so imagine trying to drive whenever traffic is crap and you've got nothing but bumper to bumper because everybody's trying to evacuate. So buses, you know, if you're sheltering in place, that kind of thing. Go through there. All right, pack a go bag. So lots of different names by it. Emergency bag, go bag. I wouldn't call it a bug out bag because this is really basic stuff that they're going through. But this is kind of stuff that you should have on you at all times anyway. Everything from, you know, first aid kit, although I personally prefer a better first aid kit than the one that they're recommending on there because of its small size. Get a real one that can address real injuries. Again, I use Refuge Medical. I have a first aid kit all over the damn house, and although usually it's on me all the time, I don't right now because I'm in my workout clothes because I just got finished working out, but kind of gives you an idea in terms of a checklist, what to look for. Notice they said they had the little guide, their own little guide, I guess, promoting themselves to make sure they've got it. You know, cash, your passports, flashlights, a radio, kind of some things you need to go. So they're going off the old method of 1 gallon of water per person per day. Again, based off my usage, sure in Helene, it was closer to 3. And that's if you're using it for washing as well as for cooking. So just be mindful that the 1 gallon is probably not good enough. It has on there other items, again, New York City, so you can't have guns, knives, you can get away with X amount in terms of size. But people, you know, bad things happen, people behave badly. So, you know, one of the things that I brought, in fact, I got it over here. It's really odd when I go to a place where I can't have, or I may not have a firearm on me, but I somehow develop a really bad limp. You know, solid wood. Just saying. Where there's a will, there's a way. But yeah, hot weather supplies, stuff for cold weather. So as it's winter now, do you have extra stuff to keep you warm? How to, you know, do you have an extra set of clothes? I always travel with extra socks, underwear, and undershirt. So that way I have something, you know, pants, it sucks having your extremities, like your crotch or your legs cold, but you won't die from it. But there are real places, if your stuff up here is dry and warm, if your feet are dry and warm, you're in a much better position to continue on living without issues or getting out of Dodge. There's some more other supply kits, like, so if you're staying at home, again, these are basic, but I thought for those who are brand new to prepping or brand new looking at it, it's a way. And if you say, oh, all I need is a 50-gallon tote to get me started, that's not a bad thing. At least it's doing something, right? Public health emergencies, stay home if you're staying sick. So this is kind of where it's like, gets into some of the, you know, oh, wear face covering for COVID. I mean, obviously I still see people with face coverings everywhere. It's not my prerogative, it's yours. Hey, cool, more power to you. But but it had, have your local numbers for emergency centers. They also have a Get Notified app, and the rest is just New York City, national emergency stuff. But then they've got a on the backside, they've got their, Get Notified, so that way if you have an event going on. So basic, but I thought it was pretty good. Now here's the kicker. Here's what I thought was really interesting about it. There is, again, New York City has a base of around 8 million people prior to it being a work day. During a work day, it's roughly close to 11 million. So you've got a 3 million person influx. I asked them what they thought they had, how many people probably took this to heart, how many people actually did it. More people after Hurricane Sandy, because once you get hit, kind of like Hurricane Helene, everybody got power generators, and then once they got their power back on, they're like, I'll never need this again. They sold it. So there's an uptick in terms of people being prepared, and then it slowly trickles down because, I don't need to. It's because they get complacent. They think maybe 1% of the population there has the basics that are mentioned in that. So do the math, 1% of 8 million, not a whole lot of people. Additionally, I asked, what kind of supplies do you guys have on hand? Like if there was a major emergency, and I'm not going to throw numbers around, but let's just, because they weren't classified numbers. So I can kind of I'll talk generally about it, but assume that they have enough for only about 1% or less of people for a meal, 3 meals a day for 7 days. So about 1%. That's what they have on hand on the island in various warehouses, right? That's food and water. What are the other 99% going to do? You see where this becomes an issue. This is why you see a lot of folks like Pastor Joe Fox, who's on Viking Preparedness. You see folks like now Pastor, but TJ Morris, known as the Bear on Bear Independent. You see folks in the other prepper communities who are talking about get out of major cities. Why? Because if you have supplies and the 99% don't, it's a numbers factor. You can only survive so long before somebody gets crazy enough, says, I'm starving, my kids are starving, I'm going to kill you to take your stuff. Additionally, they don't have the back support to try and get all those things back up. They were saying some parts of the island were out of power for weeks on end. Weeks. Again, 8 million people, no food, no water, no way to get off the island because their subways run off of what? Electricity. All of their buses, they can't pass things. So if we're talking a flood again, they need to go somewhere. How are they going to get off the island if half the island is flooded or if the major thoroughfares are flooded? You start to see that these are cascading effects. Like even though you had bad things that happened, like where we're at in Hurricane Helene, right? So it smacked the area I'm in currently really good. Not necessarily as bad as it did in, let's say Asheville or some of those other places in North or South Carolina, but we still got popped pretty good. But I still had accesses and avenues out. I could go get supplies. I could go bring supplies back in. We were able to get food and fuel. We had it on hand, but we were able to, so people didn't freak out. And even if they did, we're in a community on the outskirts of a community that's much, much, much smaller than New York City or some of these bigger cities. So we didn't have to worry per se about having the same reaction. Yes, you'll have some ne'er-do-wells that are going to try and start doing stupid stuff, but it's not going to be in the tune of several million. Because if let's just say, for example, 10% of the population has a proclivity to steal, rape, murder, kill, whatever, loot. Okay, 10% of, let's say, a city of 50,000 people is significantly less than 10% of 8 million. You see what I'm getting at? So it's a numbers thing. But just being able to talk with the Emergency Operations Center, their EOC there, and talk about some of the things that they experienced with Sandy. I mean, I'm looking at the front. Most of the island there was impassable further south. Like it just wiped it out. They couldn't get through. So if you're looking at that particular area, you're taking out. So if it's an island, it's kind of shaped like this. If this whole half of the island you can't get to get supplies, any of the bridges, ferries, thoroughfares that are this way, they're useless to you. So anyway, thought it was interesting. Hopefully it helped. If you liked it, please comment, subscribe, like all the YouTube things. Again, YouTube still seems to have it out for me. You know, they don't like people trying to bring up things that are contradictory to the mainstream narrative. So please like, subscribe, share the channel. I would really genuinely appreciate it. If you like the content, please let me know, because otherwise I'm just talking to the rectangle of death here. Somebody put on Instagram the existential crisis rectangle, and hoping that this is helping at least one person, because then it makes it all worth it. Anyway, stay safe out here.